10 most horrific school punishments from around the world. School children are often made to learn discipline with corporal punishment for a range of misbehaviours, but what happens when the consequences are worse than detention or suspension? Sometimes you may think our educational system has come a long way since the days of paddling kids on the butt with a wooden plank, but once you watch this video to the end, you'll quickly realise you were wrong. With that being said, here are the 10 most horrific school punishments from around the world brought to you by UFeed. Before we start, don't forget to hit the red button below this video to subscribe. Number 10. Eating lunch off the floor. No one likes to eat from a dirty surface, right? But then, what happens when you are forced to do so against your will? That was what happened to some of the students from the Charles Sumner Elementary School in New Jersey. Apparently in 2009, 5th graders at the school were forced to eat their lunch off the floor as punishment for a student spilling a jug of water while refilling a cooler. In the subsequent lawsuit, the school's vice principal denied the story, claiming the real reason was a lack of seats, which seems a bit odd considering the students weren't even allowed to use trays, instead being given only a small piece of paper to separate their lunch from the disgusting cafeteria floor. School officials even threatened the children that they would be forced to stay there even longer if they told anyone about their punishment. The lawsuit grew even more controversial when it was discovered that the students singled out by the African American and Caucasian teachers were all of Hispanic descent. The bizarre punishment continued for 10 days and included students that were absent the day that the water was spilled. In the end, 7 of the students affected split a $500,000 settlement. Number 9. Chopping off hair. One morning, Lamaya Cameron sat in class minding her own business and playing with the beads in her newly braided hair. Then, after persuading the 7-year-old to come to her desk with candy, her teacher proceeded to grab a pair of scissors and chopped a braid off. Lamaya claims that playing with her hair wasn't disruptive to others, though her teacher, whose name wasn't released, clearly disagreed. The incident happened in front of the whole class, who began laughing as Lamaya went back to her desk, crying and embarrassed. The teacher has apologised for the incident, claiming she did it out of frustration. She was fined $175 for her bizarre act, but hasn't been allowed to keep teaching. Number 8. Fake prom setup. In an unbelievably petty act of revenge, a Mississippi school district held a fake prom for a lesbian student after she sued them for not allowing her to wear a tuxedo and bring her girlfriend to the event. Constance McMillan and her girlfriend were initially told that they had caused their school prom to be cancelled after asking to go as a couple. Outraged by the school's bizarrely over-the-top response to her simple request, McMillan proceeded to sue the district for discrimination. After a court heard that she was legally allowed to attend, the school informed her that she would be invited to the replacement prom already arranged by her classmates' parents. Little did she know that the school had no intention of inviting her to the actual prom, instead hosting a fake event for her girlfriend, and 5 students with mental disabilities. It was only when McMillan showed up at a country club with her date that she realised she had been set up as a punishment. As she attended her prom with 6 other students, everyone else was attending the actual event just down the road. The school district was forced to pay McMillan $35,000 for the bizarre humiliation they put her through, but while the settlement was helpful, it couldn't repair the trauma of being set up by the school administrators and her classmates. Number 7. The Monster Closet. A teacher in Houston is under fire after locking several of her students in a pitch-black custodial closet known as the Monster Closet. After the class read a story about a monster that hid in closets, the pre-K teacher thought it would be good punishment for 4-year-old Kellen Chaney. As his classmates began laughing at his punishment, the teacher also proceeded to stuff 3 other children alongside Chaney in the cramped, dark closet. Chaney himself was so frightened by the incident, he ended up vomiting. A similar instance of children being locked in pitch-black rooms as punishment has also been reported in Idaho. A teacher at Washington Elementary School allegedly locked 5-year-old Tanner Cagle in a small dark closet for over an hour and eventually forgot about him altogether before leaving for home. After becoming worried when he didn't return home from class, his parents went to the school themselves where they found their son locked in a closet, having urinated on himself through fear. Number 6. The therapy bag. What comes to mind looking at the title, The Therapy Bag? Well, it may seem like another form of new age relaxation technique, but do you know that this is actually a small duffel bag that a Kentucky schoolteacher used to stuff a 9-year-old autistic boy into as punishment? Third grader Christopher Baker was forced with this humiliating punishment for not doing his homework. While school officials claim he was in there for no more than 20 minutes, the boy was still tied up in the bag when his mum arrived at the school. She was outraged to walk up and see her son calling out for her as he tried to wiggle his way out of the bag. The teacher involved has since been fired, and the extremely bizarre punishment prompted a storm of outrage from the local community. Number 5. Kneeling on frozen peas. Recently, a picture surfaced from the internet and quickly went viral. At first glance, it seems like 2 fingers with some sort of odd disease, but on closer examination, it's actually the legs of an Asian schoolgirl who was forced to kneel on frozen peas for a long period of time. This punishment seems to be growing in popularity, and more schools, especially in Asia, are using kneeling to deal with disobedient pupils. Students have been forced to kneel with their hands raised for hours and their legs resting on frozen peas, corn or rice. A girl in China was even expelled for taking pictures of the harsh punishment and posting them on the internet. While you may think that's bad, even worse are the reports of a small child being forced to kneel on things like baking hot concrete and the cheese grater by their parents. In Florida, Albert and Nancy Cusson took the punishment to the next level by making their grandson kneel for 9 hours straight, 10 days in a row. While some forms of kneeling punishment may be legal, there's a fine line separating it from shockingly cruel and unusual treatment. Number 4. The cone of shame. As we have seen, bizarre school-related punishments are apparently very popular in Florida, and the cone of shame that students were forced to wear in one teacher's classroom is no different. After watching the movie Up with her freshman science students, Laurie Bailey Cutcomp brought in her own cone of shame to put on the students as punishments. The cone consisted of a plastic dog collar that Bailey Cutcomp obtained from her previous job as a vet, where it was used to stop pets from disturbing their wounds. While she claims that it was just a joke and she never intended to truly embarrass her students, the school board definitely weren't amused, especially after those wearing the collar had their pictures taken and uploaded to Facebook by other students. The use of the cone lessened after criticism began rolling in, and Bailey Cutcomp was quickly put on unpaid suspension with the possibility of losing her job. Number 3. Writing on the face. Learning how to read is a difficult and frustrating process, even without the threat of your teacher allowing other students to draw in your face with permanent marker. Summer Larson, a 4th grade teacher in Idaho, chose just that as a bizarre form of punishment for students not meeting their accelerated reading goal. Those that did not meet the target faced 2 choices: not going to recess or allowing their classmates to write on their faces. 6 students opted for the latter. Parents were definitely not amused that their kids were coming home looking like a colouring book and quickly took action against the school. While the students did have a choice in the matter, the punishment was seen as bizarre and quite harsh to those in the class that weren't the strongest readers. Number 2. Never use your cell phone in class. Even if this particular student didn't listen to her teacher, the consequences escalated quickly in South Carolina when a school resource officer was sent in to discipline her. The 16-year-old student wasn't listening to the officer either. The cop drastically threw the girl from her seat and even tossed her across the room. It doesn't seem like the best solution for something as minor as having a cell phone out in class. Number 1. Holding hands while being laughed at. Usually when 2 students get into a fight at the school, they face suspension or possibly expulsion. However, at Westwood School in Mesa, Arizona, 2 students who got into a brawl were faced with an ultimatum. They were given 2 options: either accept a suspension or sit in the courtyard holding hands with each other for 15 minutes. The students quickly agreed to hold hands, but little did they know their punishment would go viral. Other students pointed, laughed, and took pictures and videos as the 2 fighters tried to hide their faces. The students also made lewd comments about the kids' sexual orientation and called them embarrassing names. While some local parents apparently supported Principal Tim Richards' bizarre punishment, it was strongly frowned upon by the Mesa School District. Both students were thoroughly embarrassed by the ordeal, and students continued teasing them far beyond the 15 minutes during the lunch break that they sat there. Although they said they have learned their lesson and don't plan ever fighting again in school. And that's it on our list today. Have you ever been spanked in high school? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.